antlers, assumptions, and artillery. You do know you're allowed to say no to that girl, right? The guy next to Bjorn says as he glances at his heavily drawn-on arms and shoulders. He's at the shooting range to keep his skills polished to a mere shine. Several other Undaunted are there with him, and he recognizes a couple other guys on bodyguard duty. It distracted her from possibly poking her nose into gang affairs, Bjorn replies with a shrug. While his left arm has basically the Far Cry 3 tattoo taken up to 11 up and down it, his right has a massive tribal spiral that had a fair number of aborted or failed designs crossed out on it, and a few signatures from his girls. No kidding. Are those unnailed girls really that much a problem? One of the guys asks. Bjorn recognizes him as one of the main pilots in the area. The flyboy wasn't on the level of the show-off ones that could, would, and did thread needles with starfighters or play tic-tac-toe in the clouds. But that just meant he was solid enough that you didn't have to worry about your lunch the moment they got within 5 feet of an accelerator. Mine is, the guy 2 areas down says. Henri Beaufort is always a man that seems more solid than the walls around him, even when casual. Granted, she's basically obsessed with dancing with those scary knife arms of hers and actual swords in her other hands. Right, you've got the girl that used to be Cutter, right? Bjorn asks. Yep, Philly is an absolute nut, Henri says cheerfully. Girl's got religion bad and wants to go on a crusade against all evil. I'm not so much her bodyguard as her boat anchor, stopping her from running off with a bunch of weapons and declarations that people are heretics. No, should I be worried? The flyboy asks. No, Henri replies with a bit of a yawn. She's focused on criminals, and I've been able to talk her into making sure she's fully cleared by a psychologist before trying anything. Missing the part that no psychologist worth their diploma will ever clear someone to go on a vigilante rampage. Bjorn remarks even as he activates the kinetic barriers around him and starts up a quick draw sequence. 11 in the magazine, 1 up the pipe, 2 spare mags clipped to his belt, and a random plethora of unknown targets. Exactly. Hopefully, it'll give her time to either get a workable plan together or calm the hell down, Henri notes. Right, Bjorn says, and then when a target shows up, he moves, and right through the head of the hologram, a bullet is sent. The gun was only barely brought out of its hip holster, and he only moves it by another inch when another target shows up. This one behind a primary target labeled civilian. This shot isn't quite as good. It's an instant kill on the enemy, but it grazed the civvy target. By the time his gun is up to a proper position, another 5 targets have come and gone, and the course pauses until he holsters the gun again. He can't even reload. The test is quick draw, not accurate fire from a proper position. The moment the gun is in both hands and he's looking down the iron sights, it will pause. It starts again and he gets another 5 targets before he's forced to switch magazines and things, then restart again. So, aside from her artistic endeavors, how is Holly doing? Henri asks, and Bjorn chuckles. Very well, she's opening up enough to talk to the others about what's going on. She's clearly getting more playful, and while still a teenager in some ways, is a full-on woman in most others. And you're a great judge of what makes a woman a woman. Well, I can tell when someone is doing some stupid teenage crap, like getting excited that there's criminal gangs around and immediately thinking about taking them down like you're in an action movie, Bjorn says. You're capable of doing that yourself, and if you tell me that you don't have a plan to find them, boot the door down, and start shooting in some way, I'm going to call you a liar, Henri remarks. The point I think he's getting at is that she's mature in a lot of ways, but still has a lot of her teenage self in her, which makes sense from what I understand of the girls you guys are protecting. They were teens when They got hit after all, the flyboy says, and Bjorn nods even as he finishes his next quick draw flurry. He can't seem to get more than 7 opponents in a single draw without Axiom. Still, he's on target for all of them, with his worst shot being the one that grazed the civvy in his first flurry. He runs it twice more until he runs out of all ammo and his pistol crashes into the last target. Pretty sure you weren't supposed to do that? Henri notes in a tone that says he's smiling widely. It worked, Bjorn says, holding out his hand with some Axiom the pistol slaps into his palm. We gonna snitch on him? Flyboy asks. Maybe if he fulfills a challenge, we might let him off the hook. Oh, come on, everyone does that, Bjorn protests. If off the hook you wish to be, answer these riddles 3. Flyboy begins and Bjorn holsters his weapon and collects his magazines. No, he says, walking right past them, and Flyboy seems to outright deflate. Oh, come on, this'll be funny. Not as funny as aborting it completely and watching you flail like an idiot. Bjorn counters and Henry starts laughing. Oh, shut up, you're in this too, Flyboy says, and Henry scoffs. Not really, Flyboy, he's really not, Bjorn says. Flyboy, oh my God, you forgot my name? So? Bjorn doesn't even try to deny it. We shipped out with 5,000 soldiers and hundreds of support staff for the ship itself. Then we started recruiting like the galaxy would implode if we didn't double our numbers every week. He's got a point, Henri says to stir the pot. Oh, shut up. We were on the same ship for 4 months straight. He should know me. He's got a point, Henri repeats himself. Shut up. I reiterate, 5,000 people, Bjorn says. He's got a point, Henri repeats. Knock it off, you French prick. And you Swedish pest, do you really not recognize me? I do, but the name escapes me. G something? You're Asian and you're primarily a combat pilot at this point. I think you were demolitions before. So you do remember me. It's Genghis Dava, Flyboy says. So does this mean we call you a dog-eating jackass? Henri asks, and Genghis turns to give him a very dirty look, for about 3 seconds before snorting. I prefer camel, Genghis says, and both other men pause and process that. What, you've never had camel? It's good. I'll take your word for it, Bjorn says. Next you'll tell us that the tundra worms make good jerky, Henri says. No, they don't. Normally you can treat insects or worms like some kind of extra dirty shellfish or sea life with a higher chance of disease or infection. But the damn things have something seriously messed up with them. You'll need to drown it in spices to so much as choke it down, Genghis says, sticking out his tongue. Oh my God, he actually tried it, Henri notes in a horrified tone. To my regret, I needed to brush at least 4 times before the rancid taste finally cleared out. The damn things are scavengers, predators, and cannibals, so they taste like gamey garbage and are very gooey even when solid. It's a hard yuck. A dog would turn up its nose at it, Genghis explains. And you still ate it? Bjorn demands. I took 1 bite and regretted it immediately, Genghis says with a shudder. Brr, just thinking about it makes me want some proper food. I can remember the taste. I miss Averill. What's our rule? Henri asks. Dried milk, basically. It's a ration in wartime, but like jerky, it's just food. Great for snacking and keeps you going and going. Genghis says, and there's nothing like this in the galaxy. None I've found, although, to be fair, I haven't exactly looked hard. I know there are alien cheeses, so Orl likely has a few cousins in the stars. Well, sounds like a hobby then. Either find a local source of the stuff or get some milk and make your own, Bjorn says as he gets a readout of his score and a note that him throwing the gun has been noted, and while it counts as a hit, he's still going to get a talking to. Crap. Auto-snitching got you? Genghis asks with a pleasant smile. Yep. Yeah. You knew it was going to happen, and you knew I was going to blow off your riddles, Bjorn states. Yep. Genghis answers. Prick, Bjorn says before the door to the shooting range opens and the local admiral walks out. The woman answers only to Admiral Cistern and motions with her head for Bjorn to follow. Bjorn says nothing and falls into step behind her. The walk takes them through to a heavily guarded room with portals lining the walls and then directly into the administrative section of the archaeology. Another minute and they're in the Admiral's office. Have a seat, Sergeant Veers. You're not in trouble, but I've needed to speak with you for a time, and this brought you to my attention at the right time, the Admiral says, and Bjorn sits down. He hasn't actually interacted with this Admiral before. The woman was one of the few under-admirals that wasn't human. She was local for lack of a better term. A 60-year career as a leader of a PMC that had run bodyguard services up and down prosperous space had been screwed over by politicking and forcibly broken apart. The Undaunted had found a huge number of them and eagerly snatched up the talent. Yes, sir, Bjorn says as he sits down. The little sign on her desk reads Admiral Crosswind. She looks oddly at him before sniffing a little. She's literally the only Miak that Bjorn had ever run into, and the hooded bipedal serpent kept making him think Nagasha, but they're serpent from the waist down. She's serpent all over, but with arms and legs as well. When I was told that I was going to be in charge of setting up a self-contained military city for the purposes of recruitment, dispatch, training, and protection, I scoffed a little. It seemed to be a rather poor use of my time and energy. However, I instead find the task much larger and more complicated than I could have predicted. Something that involves you a great deal now. Sir? Bjorn asks. These Sergeant. Admiral Crosswind states, and with a tap, her desk projects several memes of him. The ooh shiny. One is prominent, but so is another image of him standing on Holly's hands or having her draw on his arms. You're becoming a public figure through little fault of your own. Do you think this is compromising the protection of Miss Clatterhoofs? Oh? She hasn't taken the Veer's name yet? No. I see. We're at a rather interesting point of order here, Sergeant. In my previous occupation, I had an all-female task force. It made sense. No men, no distractions. But the predominantly male forces of the Undaunted are a living distraction and draw even more attention than the most gilded of armor or prestigious of clients. Sir, what is this meeting about? Bjorn asks. To put it very simply, while you have done nothing wrong, even throwing your gun on the range is more a matter of etiquette than safety, seeing as how you were in a contained area, emptied the pistol, and did not even consider moving on to the range itself. However, you have now been caught in public multiple times doing rather astounding things. Several months ago, we had this happen. Admiral Crosswind states and brings up an image that Bjorn recognizes but hasn't seen before. It was back in the club when he and Holly were new to Zalwar. It was him taking a laser beam to the head and not even looking mildly bothered by it. The caption of the meme is "I see the light," but Bjorn hadn't seen any of them before. We're talking because you seem to be on your way through nothing less than sheer happenstance of reaching minor celebrity status. Your name, general description, and images are being used in search algorithms over the planet with increasing frequency. Young man, you're becoming the current thing of immediate pop culture. That's going to crack operational security wide open. Bjorn gasps. No, we're taking steps to get around that already. But you need to watch what you say in public. Furthermore, this is too good an opportunity to pass by. So I'm going to be speaking to the media division soon, Bjorn asks. They'll be speaking with you, yes. But if the current trends continue, you're going to find yourself watched, followed, recorded, and questioned from all sides very, very soon. I wouldn't even be surprised if the more stupid or reckless were to actually take a shot at you to see if you're really laser and plasma proof. Oh, for the love of... You have full permission to retaliate, and we will take legal action against people that stupid. Don't worry. Yes, sir, as he says before she nods, and then her presence seems to soften. She relaxes a little, and the near diamond pattern shadow her head and hood cast on the wall behind her softens to an oval. She turns off the memes and sinks a touch in her chair. Now that the official parts are finished with, how are you handling this? From my understanding, your behavior and manners have been something out of a storybook for that poor girl. But how are you holding up? Standing guard may not be as immediately draining as active combat, but it still drains. It still exhausts. And being the husband, protector, babysitter, and more to a woman who's been through hell can wear to the bone. I'm fine. That's what males say when they don't want to talk about it. Admiral Crosswind says, Don't make me order you to speak, because I will if I must. What do you want me to say? That half the time I have no idea what to do? That she's somehow a younger sibling that needs teaching? A client in need of protection? A doting girlfriend that wants all my attention, or my lover who can't get enough of me all at once? That I'm not sure what's going to win out on the day-to-day? Or just how awkward I actually feel when I comfort her? How just straight up out of my depth it feels? How empty my assurances actually are? Admiral Crosswind nods gently. I can tell you this. I am going to make this work. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I will make it work. But I have no idea how. Half the time I only realize how well I've done after I've done it, which would be far too late if I badly messed up. I've gotten very lucky so far. After everything I've seen, I've learned to discount words like luck. Admiral Crosswind says. It wasn't an accident that you were chosen to be a bodyguard. You're a very compassionate, patient, and considerate man. You need to stop doubting that about yourself. Maybe, but this doesn't feel like a situation I can just stubborn, action hero, or try hard my way out of. You must have seen some very unusual action movies if you think that what you've been doing is an action hero routine. Admiral Crosswind says kindly, young man, you need to stop looking at how large the galaxy is as if it's a bad thing. Big problems are made of smaller ones. Just keep solving those smaller ones and you'll be shocked at how quickly they clear up. The unending safety you've offered Miss Clatterhooves and constant reassurance has worked miracles on her psyche. You've done everything right in this circumstance, encouraging the poor girl to not just survive, but thrive at her own pace, in her own comfort level, and allowing her to grow from her trauma rather than be crippled by it. I'm just worried I'm going to mess it up somehow, that I'm going to somehow say or do something that will undo everything and have her shivering in a corner at the smell of blood and never coming back out of it, Bjorn says. And so long as you keep caring like that, honestly, truly caring, it won't happen. You won't let it. I suppose that is the undaunted way of doing things, Bjorn says quietly. Something like that young man, Admiral Crosswind says with a smile before standing up and going stiff again. Her shadow once again has the diamond shape. Now then, Sergeant Veers, it has come to my attention that the 4 girls that Miss Clatterhooves has allowed to court you are decidedly in on the arrangement. Your little family is growing, and as such, will need larger quarters. Take this data pad down to the quartermaster's office and they'll sort you out. Sir? Yes, sir, Bjorn says, taking the data pad from her and offering a salute. Good man. Dismissed, she says, and he turns and marches out of the office. When the door closes, she lets out a slight chuckle. Some days I feel more like a stern mother than a superior officer. The not-so-little boy is growing up.